tremendous.
You're doing it.
Let's start with some context. So can you share the path that led you to AMBAR?
Path that led me to AMBAR. It's coming to United States, and I started working restaurant business as a runner, start building my way up to lunch bartender, bar manager. And every time, after the work, we'll go and ask like, hey, let's go eat something. And like, okay, where are we going to eat some Balkan food? I want to eat cevapi. I want to eat burek. They're like, no, it doesn't exist. I was like, nah, it's not possible. There's so many restaurants, so many different cuisines, and not one Balkan restaurant. That was a kind of the idea was born then. I start writing. So every night I come home, I start writing some menus and ideas, and that the idea was born, and there was just timing for execution. It was always in the back of my head, but I was working with Richard Sandoval, and it was very busy, but that was always in the back of my head, and I knew it's gonna become reality. And the first AMBAR opened in 2013 in Washington, D.C.
Now I would ask you, so I can remember, and the thought never even crossed my mind till my business partner asked me, but when I opened my first place that I owned outright, it was in Hollywood on Hollywood Boulevard, and it was this New Orleans inspired concept. I was born and raised in Southern Louisiana. I wanted to do a thing, and I didn't want it to be a theme bar, right? I wanted it to be like a legitimate bar in the French Quarter in New Orleans. And my business partner and I are having lunch, and he goes, as we're building it, we've already signed the lease, like we're well on our way. And he goes, can I ask you a question? And I say, yeah. And he goes, Los Angeles is the second largest city in the country. Like, why do you think nobody's done this yet? Like, think about all the years, like, why has nobody done this yet? And I thought for a minute, I turned to him and I said, well, I guess either I'm a genius or I'm an idiot. And we'll find out the day we open. And so I would ask you, like, it is hard to become the ambassador of your culture to a community that has not been exposed to it, because then it's this mixture of informing and educating while inspiring and nourishing. It's a big job. It's a bigger job than opening an Italian joint or a Mexican joint. So how did you know you were on the right track?
I didn't know that. This was just following your heart and your vision, and you just know that there's something there. And as you have mentioned, that a lot of people told me that will fail, and it was very close to fail in the beginning. That while we were getting good reviews, there was no traction because there's a lot of costs, as you can imagine, running a restaurant, opening a restaurant, while also I was a director of operation for Richard Sandoval Group, in hundreds of hours a week working on both projects. It was not easy. And having a Balkan cuisine first time, introducing it on a way that it was really very similar to other restaurants. Like I said, like we had a good reviews but no traction. And the moment where I kind of realized that I need to find a different way to introduce this cuisine, because in Balkan cuisine, there's a lot of items that are familiar, you can be familiar with, but there's others that you may not even want to try. But the idea was, let me introduce this unlimited tasting menu, and I can give you the background how I got there, where people can taste everything on the menu. And then if you see a sour cabbage stuffed with pork belly, jasmine rice, and root vegetables, you say, let me try that because I'm not paying for it. And then became this an experience. And from that day, I think the next 6 years, we had a 50 to 70% increase of sales year after year after year, because it was something unique that it's, even today, it's differentiator. Not only we are the only Balkan cuisine restaurant in United States on that level, but we also the only restaurant that serves unlimited tasting menu for set price. And that's, I think that was the moment where we kind of broke the market, and we saw that growth.
So let me ask you, if you were to ask me, as a restaurant coach, to oversimplify our entire industry, I would say that every restaurant that is suffering from poor sales has one of two issues. Either they have a product market fit issue or they have an awareness issue, meaning like either everybody knows and nobody cares, or nobody knows. But if they knew, they would care. So in the earliest days of Ambar, as you're analyzing, that you're getting great reviews but poor traction, how did you figure out that it was the offering that needed to be adjusted and not just more awareness?
I think that I would also add a third very important part of the whole equation is location. Even our location was not a AAA location. Obviously, it's my first restaurant.
Sure.
It was open with no money. I brought my best friend from Serbia as a designer and architect. Flew here, slept with me in my apartment to help me open this restaurant. But like I said, I was exposed to a lot of other operations. In the same time, opened my not in the same time, but in 2009, I opened my first restaurant, Massa 14 on 14th Street. I was a partner with Chef Rucha Sandoval and Chef Kazo Kochi, and we developed this Latin and Asian concept with small plates, and that's what I got my first sweat equity, because I helped. I was sleeping there, working, running the business, and then we opened brunch, and brunch didn't get any traction. It was my first restaurant. I got direction from them and said, we need to close it. We're not making money. And I was like, oh my God, it's like, I don't want to close something. I just opened it. And I called my PR. I was like, what's the best brunch in the city? And they sent me to Jose Andres' place in downtown. And it was a
Yeah.
10-course menu. After
Yep.
6 courses, I'm like, I'm full. Like, I got to do the same thing. I just going to say, eat as much as you want. It's unlimited. Like, it's eggs, it's bacon, and it's chips. Like, we can't go wrong with that. And we started doing unlimited brunch at Massa, and we were booked 5 months in advance. Like, this was, I don't say revolution, but it was really wild popular with our guests, and and I saw the power of unlimited menu. But then when Ambar was having traction issues, I was like, okay, how do we now replicate brunch into dinner? And when we serve steak, we serve shrimp, we serve all this very much more expensive proteins, and we have more sophisticated serving, and it's a much more complicated operation. But I knew that with that and the way that we eat in Serbia, what I'm familiar with, like, food is always on the table, and it's like celebration, and that's what I wanted to replicate. I didn't want appetizer, entree, dessert. It was like kind of boring, and it was like, how do I replicate this? We have same day Slava. Every family has the same day. When you go to somebody's house, food is always on the table. You walk in, it's already cheeses and charcuterie, everything is on the table, and it never leaves the table. And that's what I was trying to replicate. That, with combination of success of Massa 14 brunch, got me to believe that there needs to be intervention at Ambar menu and the way that we are presenting it.
But let's talk about brand and brand equity, because like all you can eat traditionally in our industry feels like a race to the bottom. But you've used it as a platform to scale up massively and scale up massively at margin. So to put your operator's hat on, like number one, how do you make that profitable? Especially considering how expensive the proteins and the quality of the raw ingredients and the service style that you're executing are. And then the second is like, how do you position it in a way that you don't get a bunch of cheap asses in there trying to like put food in their pockets?
Uh, it's a really good question, because that's the first association with bottomless, with
For sure.
buffet, where it's all like cheap food, or somebody wants to somebody wants to trick me, and I think that that's a plus and a minus, because people come with their guard down, and then my goal was always not to focus on food. Food always needs to be good, but then if you excel in hospitality, And if you provide that exceptional hospitality, when you come in the first few years, like the hostess needed to open the door for you, like everybody greeted you with a smile. We were getting you to the table, we were taking your jacket. We were like doing above and beyond to show them that warmth and Balkan hospitality. And then immediately you're like, okay, this is something different. Then on the top of that, we start plating food as we are a Michelin restaurant. And we're not even close. Obviously, it's unlimited. You can't even get close. We have a much larger seating capacity, but we were doing our best to buy a really nice plate to focus on that presentation and to make sure that when it comes to the table, it doesn't look like unlimited. It looks like somebody really cares of what they're putting on the table, and that resulted in us being in the first two mentions in a Michelin book, and then we won, I think 2018, we were in Bib Gourmand, which was the first time that Michelin recognized Balkan cuisine as a cuisine, what it was in Washington Post, and it was the first time that they're putting unlimited tasting menu on. They never had that previously, and that's, I think, from guest perspective, it's not about food. Like, food needs to be good. Everything must be tasting good. Everything needs to be fresh. And when you have this unlimited tasting menu in normal restaurant setting, you have 30% of the menu that is selling the most, and everything else is kind of sitting there and maybe nibbles. In this situation, people order everything. Like, you have items that sell more, but it's not huge difference. And then you have that movement of the food, and every morning you need to make it fresh, and that gives you that freshness. And I think that's what we were doing, like making sure that our hospitality is on the next level. And first 5 years it was unlimited tasting menu, but we were giving something for free to the guests. We were making cookies, we were making presents, take this home, do this. It was above and beyond hospitality. It was all about hospitality, knowing that operationally we need to be sound. And then from that perspective, it took us 3-4 years to understand how to portion it correctly, how to do a menu design, how to have this experience in a way that flows. Because you can be unlimited and you can start with items from the back of the menu, and you're not going to have the same experience. Also, you can lose money by having larger portions. Like, I think waste is the killer of the profit in this situation. And we are not, like, I heard a lot of restaurants, like, if you don't need this, you need to pay for it. If we're working on this hospitality and that's what we're doing, it's a guest first experience, and that's what we're trying to achieve. But there is a lot of other tricks with obviously designing the menu. How do you guide them through the experience? What is the portioning? And I couldn't replicate that because it was not existing, and we were ad hoc learning, basically.
Well, and I want to talk about the floor staff as well, because again, like, it's a foreign food, it's an unfamiliar cuisine, it's an unfamiliar setup for the menu, and it's an unfamiliar service experience. All three of those things are friction points, unless you have a team that is well trained enough to be able to guide people through it, so that that friction actually creates like a really special hand holding, personalized experience for everybody that comes into the restaurant. And for you to do that, I would assume that culture has to sit front and center. So, talk to me about the culture that you've created with at least your front of the house team that gives them the inclination, the confidence that they need to be able to walk someone through a dining experience like this.
I think culture, obviously, is extremely important. I don't know if it's obvious, but today's world, it's very important, and you need to have a team that believes in the same vision, and they can go deep with you. That's basically what it comes down to. And in order to do that, you need to be a leader that inspires, and or you need to surround yourself with like-minded people, and you need to sell them that vision. And also you need to live and breathe the brand, because it was in my head. I have a partner in Serbia, he's in Serbia, I'm here. I needed to kind of create something that does not exist, like you said, and I needed to sell it to first my people, and then from there, obviously, guest experience is going to be touched on every single level from the time they walked in. One thing that was really important in the beginning was that it was the first Balkan restaurant, and obviously, who's going to knock on your door? It's all the Balkan people want to work there. And I was in the industry. I already worked in many restaurants, and I was today. I don't know what's going on in the city. I'm not that connected, but those days I knew a lot of people, and I was able to attract a lot of good people to come in. And then obviously spending time and working together, you see who is buying into the concept, who is really trying to learn and trying to improve and trying to kind of grow with you. In those days, we're all busy. It was not today. I'm much more conscious. I know how I hire. I have a lot of systems. I do things differently. But in those days, it was all like gut feeling and kind of just spending 20 hours in the store and be there in the beginning and close with them and then go out and have drinks and just building those relationships. It was mostly, I would say, like personal relationships. There was not a lot of systems because we were learning systems. I mean, it was a beginning. Like today, it's next level. If I go back, but it needs to start like that. It's one store. You need to get your, let's say, the best people, soldiers, somebody you can really go into war with, and that's the only way you can win, because it was a lot of ups and downs. It was a lot of mishaps. It was a lot of issues. It was disaster.
Oh, for sure. It is controlled chaos, even under the best
Exactly,
of circumstances.
exactly.
For context for the folks listening, and we talked about this briefly before I hit record. How big is the group today? Like, let's talk about everything you have going on briefly, and then I want to talk about the path to get there.
Yeah, today we have three AMBAR in Washington, D.C. We just opened AMBAR Chicago. That's four AMBAR stores in Washington and Chicago in the United States in total. In Serbia, we have a very large operation. We have a concept called Burrito Madre, which is something similar to Chipotle. We have 17 units, and we are actively opening another 7 this year. We're hoping to be around 25 stores by the end of the year. And we have AMBAR in Belgrade, and we're opening AMBAR on the Belgrade airport, which is happening in the next 2 months. All total, I would say 6 AMBAR stores and 17 Burrito Madre stores. We have a Mexican concept called Buena Vida, and we also still have a partnership with Chef Richard Sandoval with a restaurant called Toro in Belgrade. We are operators and partners.
So now I want to go back to the beginning. So you open the first AMBAR, and it's not a disaster. I mean, you work it out, and it looks great. And so then you have to ask yourself, do we grow? How do we grow? Right? Because you could have just opened one more or two more, and you could have been done. Like, you could have probably cash flowed enough off of those restaurants that you could have been done. You could have lived a simple life. It could have been good for you, but you chose to grow beyond that. And so, how much of this growth is part of a calculated plan with a vivid vision in a very Cameron Herald kind of way at the end? And then how much of this is just opportunities arise and you decide whether or not to seize those opportunities?
I would say beginning where opportunities arise, you jump on it, and
Sure.
it was very much I can do it, let's do it type of situation, and there was not a lot of planning, and that's just the beginnings. And we Amber was very planned. That's what we wanted. We opened that, and after that, we were opening a second. After 4 years, we opened Amber in Clarendon, and that was also strategic. Okay, we have one in Washington D.C. Let's open another one in Clarendon. I spent a lot of time researching the market. I saw the opportunity. We found the restaurant. We actually purchased the existing restaurant because we like that corner, and we opened Ambar. It was very, very successful, still very successful. Serbia opened up with Toro. We opened, when I was opening Ambar, if I need to go backwards, I partner up with a gentleman called Mihailo Subotic, who is still my partner. and he had a restaurant called Little Factory of Taste. It was one of the best restaurants in Belgrade. It closed after 10 years of lease expired, and they decided they want to build a building, commercial real estate in that spot, and they kicked us out. But when we became partners, we opened a restaurant in Washington. But also, I spent a lot of time in Belgrade, and we're like, let's do something different in Belgrade. And we, with partnership with Chef Richard Sandoval, we opened the first, I would say, celebrity chef-driven small plates restaurant in the whole Belgrade, Toro. Toro, it's in 12 years old now. In the beginning, literally you couldn't get in. It was the one of the most popular restaurants, I would say, Eastern Europe, Balkans, but we got everybody from Lady Gaga to Bayern Munich renting it for their event. It's popular spot. And after that, we wanted to give some kind of roots to AMBAR, and we decided to open AMBAR in Belgrade. And we also challenged the status quo over there, because we were going with Balkan brand, or over there it's a Serbian brand, to Belgrade, where you have good food on every corner. But we were doing kind of a modernized version of Balkan cuisine, and we went in with the small plates. We have location on the river. It's like extremely well designed. It looks good, and it's for tourists and I would say and people from Belgrade, but it's more a destination, because there is a lot of neighborhood spots. They cook equally good food, better food, or it's a lot of good food in Belgrade. And I think we started with a lot of one-star reviews over there, because people will come expecting large portions. We were doing small plates, and it was also kind of educating people of, okay, this is a little bit different. And we also started there, unlimited tasting menu, which it's still active, but it's not selling in the percentages like we're doing it in United States. And that's how the growth came in the beginning. And after that, when we obviously educate ourselves, reading, traveling, learning, and now we have 4-year plans, and we have very strict budgets. We do our back of the house operation is really solid. Like, numbers are to the dot. We do weekly inventories. We have our, I would say, weekly P&Ls, and we do projection budgets, and we have plans when we're opening, and we're now trying to be very consistent with our promises, and we're focusing Burrito Madre and Ambar, and that's our growth strategy. It's much more polished than before.
And I would assume that you've become a very different person over the years since initially opening Ambar. I would assume that we all grow and we learn and we evolve. The turning point in my career was like I grew up in this industry, and so like everybody I knew was in this industry, and I didn't know a ton of people outside the industry. And so the turning point in my career was when I joined EO, the Entrepreneurs Organization, because it was at that point that I was exposed to other people that had very successful businesses outside of our industry, and it presented me with new ideas and new strategies and new books and new muses. And when we initially crossed paths, it's because we were both a part of the same organization. And so I would ask you, on your entrepreneurial path, on your path to becoming a better leader, how much of that has been influenced from the people that you know within the industry, and how much of it comes from what you've borrowed from outside of our industry?
I think that's, like you said, it's a combination. It's all individual, and you meet people. But what I like to do, I like to, like me and you, you reach out. I was like, yeah, let's talk, and I never say no to conversation. And I meet a lot of people, and doesn't matter what industry they are. If they want to meet, they have an agenda, we can talk. Maybe we never talk again. Maybe we click and we became friends. Doesn't matter. But meeting and understanding that you can learn from any business and apply it to the restaurant business. It's restaurant business, in my opinion, it's like any other business. You have your profit, and you have your top line and bottom line and everything in between, and you just need to understand how to manage that. I would say that learning from industry peers is extremely welcome, and I think you can learn a lot because same business. But tapping into other industries and talking to successful people either about scaling or investment. It depends what stage are you in your business and where do you want to go. I think the most important thing that a lot of people don't have is their goals. They don't know where they're going, and that's why they're kind of going ping pong. That's what happened to me as well. It happens to everybody, but I think at some point you need to understand, okay, like you said, you want to want 2 stores and go on vacations every year, or you want to work 10 years and make money in 10 years. That's the question you need to answer. And then you need to create a path, and then you need to understand, how do I get there? You cannot just say, I wanted to go there. And then you need to see, okay, I know these things and I don't know these things. And then what I was doing, I was like reaching out to people that I want to learn more about investment. I want to learn about more exit strategy. I want to learn about it. And that's where you go. You can go to those conferences, or you can find people who doing that successfully, and you need to kind of target what you need, because you can stay in the restaurant business and just get the same information back and forth, or you can expand your knowledge. But I think the goal is the key. If you don't know where you're going, it's hard to kind of get that all in line.
Let's talk about Chicago. Chicago is an interesting market to grow into. One, because I mean there is distance between you and Chicago in terms of brand, but that's easily offset by the fact that it is super competitive and incredibly expensive to do business there. So I would ask you, like, why Chicago when there were a bunch of secondary and tertiary markets you could have gone into and just cannibalized the entire market?
I think that one main reason is Balkan people in Chicago, and the amount of Balkan people in Chicago. We have the most expats, I think, after the Balkans are in Chicago, and that was something that we knew from before, and in combination that it's competitive, they're foodies, but I like that. I prefer going there and knowing that people want to go out, that people want to dine in. If I believe in my product, then I have all the, I say, competencies to get in the market. Then I want to test it, because we want to grow. That's the plan. First market in Chicago, and then we did our research. We know what's our core audience. We know what's our target audience, bullseye audience, and on top of that, we have the Balkan population that I'll tell you, after two months, we are supported tremendously. I'm so happy. It's more than we even expected. And I think that they're happy for us to be there. We are happy that they recognize the quality and they're coming. But I think that the key is what you said. It's expensive. It's this and that. It's key is that using all the experience that I have, not to get into the most expensive location or to get into bad location. And it took me, I don't know, year and a half working with really experienced broker over there, David Goldberg, and patience. Like, I want to go there, but I want to get there when I find a corner location with a patio, one floor. I want my rent to be X. I want to have this amount of seats, and I want to. And when you know what you're looking for, then it's easy to say no to a lot of opportunities that come your way. Because we had a Clarendon location that was our kind of store that we liked the most, and that design and open kitchen, bar, and everything was fitting perfectly. The numbers are good. We know how to run it, and that was our model store, and we wanted to find that in Chicago.
You know, you bring up a really good point. It's you reach just a modicum of success. I mean, especially post pandemic, and the developers start calling, right? Ivan, you're so special. You're so smart. We're building this entire high rise, and we want to dedicate the entire thing to your restaurant because you are such a brilliant restaurateur. I get calls from clients all the time, right? That they've achieved traction and profitability and a little bit of growth. And then they get all of these opportunities. Um, how do you, in your mind, delineate between what is an opportunity and what is a distraction once you've reached your level of success?
We decided that opening a restaurant from scratch in a new build out where you need to put your mechanical, electrical, plumbing, it doesn't make sense anymore in this new post-COVID world. And we did that. We went both ways, and right now it's like it needs to be a second generation. Immediately there, you cut your cost by 60%.
Yeah.
And then if you know exactly what you're looking for, that's why I say having clarity, it's much easier to say no. And I was in those shoes before, and I make so many mistakes, and every deal is so sweet, and everybody, like you said, oh, you're amazing, and until you sign the deal, and then they go to another one. But I think that you just need to you need to know what you're looking for. I think that patience is a key, because it's very easy for something, because you can do anything. Like, can you make that place work? Yeah, I can make that place work. This place can make 200,000 with the same amount of work and the same dedication. In other place, you make 700,000 profit a year. That's why it's not what you can do. It's like what would be the best output for the amount of time you and your team are putting in. And that's kind of the key. And now you can come to me with whatever you want. It's like I'm not looking, and I'm not even getting calls because I'm not on the market.
Let's talk about the growth from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, because I think that's a pivotal time for most restaurateurs. How did you know you were in a place where you could grow? What metrics were you looking at that you said, this is stable enough that I could step away from this thing and build this other thing? Or I've stacked my bench deep enough that I have enough talent that I can now expand? Like what were the boxes you were looking to check as you've grown over the years that lets you know you've got a green light to grow?
I think that one obvious thing is your brand and profitability to each store. And if you have captive audience, if you are making, I would say, profits. There's other people that have sales, but they don't have profits. But I think this is a profit game, and it's a penny game. That's why it's very important. If you say, I have a brand, I have a product, and I have something that people want, uh, a lot of people think that that's enough. I think that the key is people. Like, if you don't have people, then you can have what, in my opinion, in my experience, you can have whatever you want. It's not going to work. You need to have first knowledge about what you want to do and every step that you make. But if you don't have people to execute that vision, because I can be in one store, I can run one store. As soon as I get to two, you lost me. And building the team on corporate level, building the team in each store and all the way to your servers is key. If you have a good brand, but you have servers quitting, or you can't keep your managers, you're not ready. Like, something is off. Like, I think that's it needs to be a combination of a lot of things. Like, you need to have a visionary who knows what's good for the brand, what are the next locations, how to find location, how to put financials together, how to open it. But then it's all on your people. Like, there needs to be somebody. We can open it, and then in Chicago, I can open that store. And if we did a bad hiring when we leave, I'm now in DC. If I don't have a good chef, if I don't have a good general manager who are also bought in the story, they believe in the company, they want to grow with the company, and they see the long-term benefit, then it's very hard. That's why a lot of people, consistency, as soon as you get from 1 to 2, okay, 2 you can manage, 3, 4, then that's the next level. And we'll see. We're just starting. Yeah, so far we're doing good, but as you grow, you need to put more money in the corporate. You need to do a lot. You need to that support needs to be there, and the way that you're hiring, even from floor managers, servers, like, it's extremely important, because that's those are all your legs that you need to stand on, and starting from line cooks, from dishwasher, like, everybody's important. It's like a pyramid, and then if things getting shaky on any level, it can crash.
Who was the critical hire for you? Who was that person that you hired that didn't unlock the business, right? But like unlocked you so that you could actually begin to step into the role that you needed to be in?
I would say today there's two things. The best thing that happened to us, I have a partner in Serbia that it's equally invested like me, works at equally hard, and he's building operations in on this different continent, and I don't need to worry about that operation. He has different challenges. It's not easy by no means, but I don't need to worry about that. Then here, it's like it's hard to hire, and I would say that there's a lot of people that I grew with. Like I have, for example, when I was also part owner of El Centro Mexican restaurant. There was a guy there that was my doorman. He became my director of operation. Now he's my controller. He's my gatekeeper for everything. Anything that's happened in the company, he holds the key. If I need something, I go to him, and I know that everybody else that talks to him, we are on the same page. I don't need to worry about it. I have director of operation who was my server. He's with me for 12 years, and he is critical part of the team. And if he does his job, and I know because I was training him for this for a decade, that takes opportunity for me to step into the visionary role. Even I'm still involved in operation, but not as much as I was before. Definitely not as much as before. But idea is for me to step out of operation completely, and we're getting into that direction. And I think that having because I think even hiring people, like you can hire the best direct operation for some company may not be working for you because that those cultural moment, and then even whoever you hire, I cannot let him do anything for a year until I can let him do something on his own. That's what it's either you have a huge operation that has 30 years in corporate, and then you can turn and burn, and those little pieces you don't miss them, and they cannot damage the operation. When you get to like 15, 20 stores, 30 stores, that's a different game. But at 4 or 5, you still are broke, you still don't have money, you still are like just surviving and getting there. And every person in corporate is it's more money they need to pay for, and then you need to be very selective. Who do you need? How do you do that? And then everybody needs to pull their weight, and that's not 40 hours, that's 50, 60 hours. And in order to get to next level, it's like from 1 to get to 5 it's one game. I think from 5 to 10 it's a different game, and then you need to get ready for it. You need to understand it. You need to know what do you need to do before you do it.
Let's talk about compressing time. So you've got more than a decade into this at this point. If you could start all over again, knowing what you know now with all the life experience that you do, what would you do differently with AMBAR to grow it, to maximize profitability? Like if you could literally start over today, you get the keys today, what would you do differently?
It's a good question, but I don't know if I know the answer. But you know what? Like our industry changed 4 times in the last
My
six
God,
years.
for sure. In the last six
Like,
weeks.
and I don't know what I'm gonna do next week after this experience. Like, they're doing crazy stuff. Like, we have now, I don't know, we're paying servers. It's supposed to be we're paying $10. They moved it for 90 days yesterday, but we're supposed to pay servers $12 an hour. 5 years ago it was $2.79.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything that we're buying is 40% more expensive, and everything that is happening, yet like even you can predict a lot of things, but there's some things that unpredictable in economy and in like this weird laws that people are putting on us. Like right now my server is making $55 an hour. Like that, we love them, we want them to make as much money, but 55 is a lot for a server. Like I never made a $55 an hour, and I was a bartender and a server in top restaurants, and it's fine. But then that all needs to be transferred to the guest check, and then they're gonna dine twice instead of 4 times a month. And it's. I think that people. I don't understand. I'm just saying from my experience. I'm not into politics. I don't understand anything. But there's some bad moves are being made on the top that are affecting all of us. And what would we do differently? Definitely it's focus and making sure then you make the right moves. Like what I would choose, maybe different locations, or I would maybe spend money more wisely. Where, like I said, I wouldn't spend $4 million on building a restaurant because it's sustainable. You can't get your money back. Like it's not possible anymore. It's a tough question because there's so many variables.
Let's talk about focus,
And
man.
I listen. I have opportunity to do. I'm not stopping. I have another 10 years to do exactly what you asked me. Next time when
Sure.
we talk, I can tell you what I did, and even successful or not.
But isn't focus the end all be all? It's the one thing that I remind myself of constantly. It's probably the number one lesson that I have learned like again and again and again and again and again throughout my career is focus. Like you just have to keep the main thing the main thing. It's I was listening to a gentleman speak yesterday, and one of the things he was saying is, there's nothing in the world worse than like a slightly profitable distraction, and it really struck a chord, because it's not that you're not going to make money doing this other thing. It's just in doing that other thing and making a little bit of money, you are pulling your attention away from this thing that could be massive for you. Do you have tools, ways that you remind yourself to keep the main thing, systems in place internally that help you recenter and refocus on your goals?
Oh, absolutely. And I have a wife to remind me
Y-
every day.
Same. Same.
No, that is the key. That discipline is the key because there's a lot of shiny things that come your way all the time, and that's the main thing when I said having a goal and having a path. And if you can see the path, if you can say, hey, I can open 10 of these and I can sell it for 20 million, then everything else is distraction and you
Sure.
can actually see it clearly. But if you don't have a plan, if you don't know where you want to go, if you don't see the vision behind it, then yes, they're going to offer you, can you open this restaurant, create a new concept and make $100,000? Yeah, that's amazing. And then that becomes 10-year lease. You can't get out of it. And that takes you down. And then you lose your side from the big prize. And I think that's where we are now. We're locked now on two brands, and that's it. We have Ambar, we have Burrito Madre, and it's enough. It's game over. We have a QSR, we're casual. We can be creative. We can do a lot of things, and those are our like main and only focuses.
I heard this question from Stephen Bartlett from Diary of a CEO. I thought it was a really interesting way to present the information. He asked, "What's the advice that you needed most in your life that you didn't get?"
And I think that the one that you just said, the focus is the one that I needed the most. I also didn't mention a part of my career when I opened a Mexican restaurant, 11,000 square feet, and I opened another one, 7,000 square feet. And there was a lot of distractions. And if I didn't do that, today we'll probably have 7 AMBARs and maybe 30 burritos. And that's what it is. I think if somebody told me, actually people told me but I didn't listen, but if somebody explained me, if if somebody if somebody explained me and made me believe that that's the right thing to do, I think that would change trajectory, and today we will be much better positioned. Like that's definitely one thing that would change everything.